As I sat in my quiet room, the weight of the world pressed in around me. In 2024, everything changes. Do you feel it? The whispers of prophecy linger in the air, and the signs are becoming impossible to ignore. Imagine witnessing an eclipse that seems to echo ancient scriptures, each shadow a reminder of what's to come. What if I told you that earthquakes shaking the very ground beneath our feet could be more than mere natural events? Picture a red heifer, a symbol steeped in biblical significance, making headlines. What does that mean for our understanding of the end times? And amidst the chaos of war, are we on the brink of a pivotal moment in history? Every headline, every tremor, every celestial event feels like a piece of a grand puzzle. Are you paying attention? Each sign is a call to awaken, a reminder that we are living in extraordinary times. As we unravel these mysteries together, keep your eyes open and your hearts ready. The narrative is unfolding, and you're part of it. So, are you prepared to dive deeper and discover what these signs truly mean for us all? Let's embark on this journey together. Sartan. Eclipses and biblical prophecies. You know, when I think about eclipses, it's hard not to feel a little awe at the cosmos. There's something undeniably spiritual about witnessing the moon obscure the sun, casting shadows over the earth. In many cultures, eclipses have been viewed as omens, and the Bible is no exception. Throughout history, these celestial events have sparked discussions and interpretations about their meanings, particularly concerning prophecies. The ancient Israelites often saw eclipses as divine messages, signaling significant changes or warnings from God. It's fascinating to consider how these occurrences were interpreted in biblical times compared to our modern understanding. The spiritual aspect of eclipses is deeply intertwined with historical events described in the scriptures. For instance, many scholars point to the solar eclipse that occurred around the time of Jesus' crucifixion as a significant sign. The Gospel of Matthew describes darkness covering the land from noon until 3 in the afternoon. This event has led many to ponder whether it was a literal eclipse or a metaphorical representation of the somber moment in history. Regardless, it's hard to ignore how such events are often viewed as markers of divine intervention or prophecy fulfillment. In contemporary discussions, eclipses are often revisited in light of modern prophecies. Various movements look to the skies, interpreting eclipses as potential signs of significant shifts on Earth, whether political, social, or spiritual. Some claim that certain patterns of eclipses could align with prophetic timelines mentioned in the Bible. It's intriguing how these celestial events continue to inspire a sense of urgency or anticipation regarding what they might signify for our future. Moreover, the relationship between eclipses and prophetic events raises questions about the nature of time itself. Are these celestial occurrences merely coincidental, or do they serve a greater purpose in the divine narrative? I often find myself reflecting on how the universe aligns with our human experiences and beliefs. It's a reminder that we're part of something much larger than ourselves. And perhaps, just perhaps, the heavens are trying to communicate with us through these remarkable phenomena. As we navigate through life, I think it's essential to remain open to the lessons that can be learned from such events. Eclipses remind us of the cycles of life, the ever-changing nature of our world, and the possibility of renewal. Whether you view them as divine signs or natural occurrences, they undoubtedly encourage us to reflect on our place in the universe and the spiritual narratives that shape our understanding of history and prophecy. Charm signs of the end times. When I dive into the topic of signs of the end times, it often feels like an intriguing puzzle waiting to be solved. Many people, both scholars and laypersons alike, have sought to interpret the signs mentioned in the scriptures in light of contemporary events. There's a certain thrill in trying to connect the dots between ancient texts and the chaos we often see reported in the news. earthquakes, wars, and moral decay. These have all been cited as indicators of the approaching end. But how do we discern what is truly a sign from God and what is simply a part of the human experience? One of the most captivating aspects of this discussion is how different interpretations can emerge from the same text. For instance, the Gospel of Matthew speaks of wars and rumors of wars, and some take that as a literal prediction of modern conflicts. In contrast, others might argue that these phrases symbolize the spiritual battles we face in our daily lives. The multiplicity of viewpoints adds depth to the conversation, and it's fascinating to see how cultural contexts influence these interpretations. In our current world, the rapid pace of change and the overwhelming amount of information can leave us feeling anxious and unsure. It's easy to draw parallels between the turmoil we see today and the warnings described in the scriptures, but I often wonder if these signs are meant to invoke fear or to encourage us to seek deeper understanding and connection. The prophetic texts can serve as a call to action, urging us to reflect on our values and the world we inhabit. Social media has also played a significant role in this conversation. It seems like every day there's a new viral post claiming to have identified the latest sign of the end times. I find it both amusing and alarming how quickly misinformation can spread, leading to panic or misguided beliefs. It's crucial to approach these discussions with a discerning mind, considering the historical and cultural context of the scriptures while also grounding ourselves in reality. Ultimately, the signs of the end times compel us to ponder our existence and the legacy we wish to leave behind. When we view these signs as invitations for introspection rather than mere predictions of doom, we can find meaning and purpose in a chaotic world. Perhaps the key is not solely in identifying the signs, but in how we choose to respond to them, fostering hope and resilience in our communities. Earthquakes in the USA. Earthquakes have always fascinated me, especially considering how they can shake our very foundations, both literally and metaphorically. In recent years, the increase in seismic activity across the United States has raised eyebrows, sparking conversations about their implications from a prophetic standpoint. Some people view these tremors as potential fulfillments of biblical prophecies, while others simply see them as natural disasters that remind us of the Earth's power. It's a compelling topic that reveals the intersection of science, faith, and human experience. When we look at the geographical landscape of the US, we can't ignore the fact that it sits on several tectonic plates. This geological reality means that earthquakes are, to some extent, a natural occurrence. However, the modern frequency and intensity of these events have led many to connect the dots between the Earth's upheavals and the signs of the times mentioned in the Bible. As someone who enjoys delving into these discussions, I often find myself asking whether our interpretations are influenced more by fear or faith. The prophetic lens through which we view these earthquakes can vary widely. For some, the tremors are seen as a wake-up call, urging humanity to turn back to God. Others might interpret them as a sign of impending doom, reflecting the chaos and disorder prophesied in the scriptures. It's interesting how our perspectives can shape our understanding of such events. Personally, I lean towards the idea that these earthquakes can serve as reminders of our fragility and the need for community and resilience in the face of adversity. Moreover, the media's portrayal of earthquakes often amplifies our fears. Each time there's a significant quake, it becomes headline news, leading to discussions about preparedness and safety. This constant coverage can create a sense of dread, making it easy to fall into the trap of viewing every tremor as a prophetic sign. While it's essential to stay informed and prepared, I believe it's equally important to maintain a sense of perspective, recognizing that these events have occurred throughout history. In the end, how we interpret earthquakes in relation to prophecy speaks volumes about our beliefs and values. Some may see them as signs of God's impending judgment, while others may view them as opportunities for growth and solidarity within our communities. Regardless of our perspectives, these natural events remind us of our shared humanity and the importance of coming together in times of crisis. The red heifer. The topic of the red heifer often feels like diving into a deep theological well, rich with meaning and significance. In Jewish tradition, the red heifer is intertwined with the concept of purification and the rituals associated with the temple. The idea that a single, unblemished red cow could play a role in the restoration of the temple brings with it a sense of hope and anticipation. For many, the return of the red heifer is seen as a precursor to significant prophetic events, making this topic even more captivating in today's context. For those unfamiliar, the red heifer is described in the Book of Numbers, where it is used in a purification ritual for those who have come into contact with death. The ashes of the red heifer are mixed with water to create a solution that cleanses individuals, symbolizing renewal and a fresh start. This ritual holds profound significance for many, especially as discussions about rebuilding the Temple Mount in Jerusalem gain momentum. For some, the presence of a red heifer is a sign that the time for restoration is drawing near. As I explore this topic, I can't help but reflect on how the red heifer symbolizes hope in a world that often feels chaotic and uncertain. The anticipation surrounding its arrival can be seen as a call to prepare ourselves spiritually for what is to come. It's not just about the physical act of purification, but also about the deeper meanings of spiritual readiness and renewal. In many ways, it serves as a reminder that we are always in a state of becoming, always called to evolve and grow. The relevance of the red heifer in contemporary discussions cannot be overstated. Many religious communities are actively seeking signs of its arrival, believing that it will usher in a new era of spiritual awakening. The excitement surrounding this topic often leads to heated debates, with some interpreting it literally while others see it as a metaphor for personal transformation. Regardless of one's viewpoint, the underlying message remains the same. There is a longing for something greater, a desire for restoration and connection. Ultimately, the story of the red heifer transcends the boundaries of time and culture. It invites us to reflect on our own lives and the ways we seek to purify our hearts and minds. In a world filled with distractions and chaos, the notion of renewal through the red heifer serves as a beacon of hope, challenging us to engage in our spiritual journeys with intention and purpose. From hurricanes and wildfires to floods and droughts, it seems like chaos reigns. Many people, myself included, have started to draw connections between these catastrophic events and biblical prophecies. There's a sense of urgency in the air, as if the earth itself is sending us a warning. Some might say it's merely a coincidence, but I can't help but think there's a deeper meaning to these tragedies. When I read the scriptures, I often come across verses that speak of the earth groaning in anticipation of the end times. For example, Matthew 24 mentions famines and earthquakes as signs of the beginning of sorrows. This makes me wonder if the natural disasters we're witnessing now are those very signs. Are we living in a time where the prophecies are starting to unfold right before our eyes? I find myself pondering what role humanity plays in this unfolding narrative. There's also a perspective that suggests our treatment of the planet is directly linked to these disasters. The idea that our negligence could be provoking the very prophecies we fear is both sobering and motivating. It's hard to ignore the biblical principle of stewardship. We've been entrusted with the care of this world, and as we face the consequences of our actions, it raises questions about accountability, both personally and collectively. The environmental movements today echo some of these ancient warnings. Activists often quote scripture to support their cause, drawing parallels between climate change and biblical teachings. It's fascinating to see how these age-old texts remain relevant in contemporary discussions. Could it be that the prophets of old were not only foreseeing events, but also urging us to take responsibility for our planet? In my conversations with friends and family, I often find that the discussion about climate change is intertwined with a sense of existential dread. People are looking for answers, and many are turning to faith as a source of hope. Could it be that in acknowledging these changes, we are also acknowledging a divine plan? It's a complex interplay of fear, responsibility, and faith that I can't seem to shake off. Hatan, the role of Israel in prophecies. Israel holds a unique place in biblical prophecies that I find endlessly intriguing. As I dive deeper into the scriptures, it becomes clear that this tiny nation is often portrayed as the focal point of God's plans. The significance of Israel is not just historical. It's deeply intertwined with the eschatological narratives that many believe are unfolding today. Every time I read about Israel in the context of prophecy, I can't help but feel a sense of gravity. One of the most striking aspects of Israel's role in prophecy is the return of the Jewish people to their homeland. This event is often cited as a fulfillment of biblical promises. For those who believe in the prophetic timeline, Israel's existence today is a sign that we are living in the last days. It makes me ponder how the global community perceives this dynamic. Some see it as a blessing, others view it with skepticism. Regardless, Israel's centrality cannot be ignored. In my conversations with fellow believers, we often discuss the implications of Israel's modern-day conflicts. The tensions surrounding Jerusalem and its surrounding areas evoke a sense of urgency. Many believe that these geopolitical struggles are not merely political, but are deeply spiritual. It's as if the very fabric of prophecy is being woven through the events that transpire in the region. I often wonder how these conflicts will play out in the light of biblical texts. The recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel by various nations has further intensified discussions around prophecies. The implications of such actions are far-reaching. Many believe that acknowledging Jerusalem's significance is a precursor to the events foretold in the Book of Revelation and other prophetic texts. It's a fascinating, albeit troubling, intersection of faith, politics, and prophecy that keeps me up at night. As I contemplate Israel's role in the grand narrative of prophecy, I can't help but feel a mix of hope and concern. The nation is a testament to resilience, yet it also serves as a reminder of the troubled waters we navigate. I find myself praying for peace in the region and for wisdom to discern the signs of the times. The story of Israel is unfolding, and I can only hope to understand my place within it. Chapter 10. The Prophecy of Daniel. Delving into the prophecies of Daniel is like opening a treasure chest of revelations. The layers of meaning embedded in this book are vast and complex. As I go through the images and visions described, I can't help but draw parallels to the events we see today. The prophetic timeline outlined in Daniel seems eerily relevant, almost as if it was written for our generation. One of the standout features of Daniel's prophecies is the concept of kingdoms rising and falling. It's fascinating to think about how history has unfolded in alignment with these predictions. Empires have come and gone, and the world continues to shift in unpredictable ways. I often reflect on how Daniel's visions provide a framework for understanding our current global landscape. Are we at the cusp of another significant shift? The thought sends shivers down my spine. Another element that captivates me is the prophecy of the abomination of desolation. As I ponder its implications, I can't help but connect it to the spiritual and moral decline we see in society today. The idea that something sacred could be defiled resonates deeply with me. It raises questions about our values and the state of our collective conscience. Are we, in some way, witnessing the fulfillment of this prophecy? The timeline that Daniel presents also speaks to the concept of a final reckoning. As someone who grapples with the uncertainties of life, this notion is both daunting and comforting. The idea that there is a divine plan, one that ultimately leads to justice and restoration, provides a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. I often find myself discussing these themes with friends, exploring how they impact our understanding of faith and the future. In navigating the complexities of Daniel's prophecies, I remain acutely aware of the responsibility that comes with such knowledge. It's not merely about understanding what's to come, but also about living in a way that reflects the values we hold dear. The prophecies of Daniel serve as a reminder that we are part of a larger story, one that calls us to be vigilant and faithful in our actions. The Apocalypse and its interpretation. When I think about the book of Revelation, I'm filled with a sense of awe and trepidation. This book has sparked countless interpretations and debates over the centuries, and it's fascinating to explore the different schools of thought that have emerged. Some view Revelation as a literal roadmap of future events, while others interpret it metaphorically. As I sift through these perspectives, I find myself questioning which lens resonates most with my understanding of faith. One of the most compelling interpretations I've encountered is the idea that Revelation serves as a timeless allegory of the human experience. It's not solely about the end times, but also about the struggles we face in our daily lives. The imagery of beasts, plagues, and divine judgment can be viewed as reflections of the chaos and pain we experience. This approach offers a fresh perspective that resonates with my own journey of faith. As I engage in conversations with others about Revelation, I often notice the divide between those who emphasize fear and those who focus on hope. The vivid descriptions of judgment can be unsettling, yet I find comfort in the overarching message of redemption. The promise of a new heaven and earth is a beacon of hope that encourages me to remain steadfast in my beliefs. It's a reminder that even amidst turmoil, there is a divine purpose at work. Another aspect that intrigues me is the varying interpretations of the mark of the beast. This concept has inspired endless speculation and fear, yet it also opens up discussions about identity, loyalty, and faithfulness. In a world filled with distractions and competing allegiances, I often wonder what it truly means to remain faithful in the face of adversity. The discussions around this topic challenge me to reflect on my own values and commitments. Ultimately, the book of Revelation serves as a call to vigilance. It invites us to examine our lives and our relationship with the divine. As I navigate my own faith journey, I find encouragement in the diverse interpretations of this powerful text. Whether viewed through a lens of fear or hope, Revelation reminds us that we are part of a larger story, one that transcends time and speaks to the core of our existence. Religious movements and the search for signs. In today's world, the rise of religious movements that focus on prophecy and signs is particularly fascinating. It's almost as if these groups are searching for tangible evidence of the divine working in our lives. As I observe this trend, I can't help but wonder how it reflects our collective desire for meaning in a chaotic world. The urgency to find signs of the times seems to resonate with many, including myself. These movements often harness the power of social media to spread their messages, creating a sense of community around shared beliefs. It's remarkable how technology has transformed the way we engage with faith and prophecy. I find it both inspiring and concerning, as the rapid dissemination of ideas can sometimes lead to misunderstandings or even fear. The search for signs can quickly turn into an obsession, overshadowing the core tenets of faith. One aspect that stands out to me is the emphasis on personal experiences and encounters with the divine. Many individuals within these movements share testimonies of miraculous events or prophetic dreams. As I hear these stories, I'm struck by the human desire for connection with the transcendent. It raises questions about how we discern genuine experiences from those that may be fabricated or misinterpreted. I often reflect on my own spiritual experiences and how they shape my understanding of faith. However, there's also a cautionary tale in the fervor surrounding these movements. The desire for signs can sometimes hamper from the rise of false prophets. I find myself reflecting on the warnings about false prophets in the Bible, especially in these tumultuous times. It's almost like every corner I turn, I encounter someone claiming to possess the truth, often wrapped in their own interpretation of Scripture. The reality is that these figures can be quite charismatic, drawing in large crowds with promises of prosperity or revelations about the end times. Their allure is powerful, and it's easy to see why many are swept away. But as I delve deeper into the Scriptures, I can't help but feel a sense of caution. The Bible is quite clear about the characteristics of these false prophets. They often come cloaked in sheep's clothing, appearing harmless on the outside while harboring destructive intentions. It makes me think about the importance of discernment in today's world. With social media amplifying voices that might not have had a platform in the past, discernment has never been more critical. I often wonder how many are led astray simply because they fail to compare these teachings against the truth of the Word. One aspect that strikes me is the impact these false prophets have on society as a whole. When a significant portion of the populace follows misleading doctrines, it creates a ripple effect that can distort moral values and lead to societal chaos. I think about how these misguided interpretations can lead individuals to make choices that are not only detrimental to themselves, but also to their communities. It's a troubling thought, knowing that many are walking around with a skewed understanding of faith. Moreover, the rise of these figures raises questions about the state of our spiritual health. Are we, as a society, so desperate for answers that we latch onto anyone who claims to have them? It seems that in an age filled with uncertainty, people are more willing to overlook the red flags. The comforting words of a false prophet can seem far more appealing than the sometimes challenging teachings of Scripture. I often find myself reminding friends and family to look deeper than surface-level promises. As I contemplate this phenomenon, I can't help but feel a sense of urgency. The warnings are there for a reason, and they resonate more now than ever. It's a call to be vigilant, to seek wisdom, and to ground ourselves in the truth of the Scriptures. We must not allow ourselves to be swayed by every wind of doctrine, but instead strive for a faith that is anchored in understanding and discernment. Technology and prophecies. Technology has become an integral part of our lives, and it's fascinating and a bit unsettling how it intertwines with biblical prophecies. I often ponder how the advancements we've made can align with those ancient predictions about control and surveillance. The idea of a global system where people are monitored and tracked seems almost like a script straight out of Revelation. As I explore this topic, I can't help but feel both awe and apprehension. The rapid development of technology has significantly changed the landscape of human interaction and governance. Take, for instance, the rise of digital currencies and the potential for a cashless society. It's easy to draw parallels with the mark of the beast, where buying and selling are controlled by a singular entity. I find myself questioning how this could manifest in practical terms. Would we, as a society, willingly give up our autonomy for the sake of convenience? It's a daunting thought, and it makes me realize the need for critical thinking as we navigate this digital age. Moreover, the rise of artificial intelligence and data analytics raises concerns about privacy and individual freedoms. The idea of being constantly surveilled and having our choices dictated by algorithms feels eerily prophetic. It makes me think about the implications of living in a world where our every move is monitored and analyzed. Are we edging closer to a reality where the control described in biblical prophecies becomes our everyday existence? It's a question that lingers in my mind. As I engage in discussions with friends and family about this, I often emphasize the importance of remaining vigilant. While technology can undoubtedly enhance our lives, it's crucial to recognize the potential for misuse. The biblical warnings about a future where humanity is controlled and manipulated serve as a sobering reminder that we must tread carefully. My hope is that we can embrace technology responsibly while holding on to our freedoms and values. In conclusion, the intersection of technology and prophecy is a complex and thought-provoking subject. It challenges me to think critically about the tools we use and the systems we create. As we move forward in this rapidly evolving landscape, I find comfort in the idea that awareness and discernment can guide us in navigating these prophetic waters. The journey is ongoing, and I remain committed to seeking one that signifies the culmination of human history is profoundly sobering. It makes me reflect on the state of the world today and how close we might be to witnessing such events unfold. As I engage in conversations about this topic, I often find that people have varying interpretations of Armageddon. Some see it as a literal battle, while others interpret it more symbolically. Personally, I lean toward the belief that it represents a final confrontation between good and evil, a decisive moment where the true nature of humanity is revealed. The idea that our choices, actions, and beliefs could lead us to this climactic point is something that weighs heavily on my mind. I also consider the geopolitical landscape and how current tensions might serve as precursors to this prophesied war. The escalation of conflicts around the globe, the rise of authoritarian regimes, and the persistent threat of nuclear warfare all seem to point toward a world on the brink. As I observe these developments, I can't shake the feeling that we are living in a time where the stage is being set for the fulfillment of ancient prophecies. It's a thought that both terrifies and compels me to reflect on my own role in this unfolding narrative. Moreover, I find it essential to acknowledge the spiritual warfare that accompanies these physical battles. The scriptures emphasize that our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers. This understanding shifts the focus from merely external conflicts to the internal battle within our souls. It challenges me to consider how I can prepare myself spiritually for the challenges that lie ahead. In contemplating the last war, I am reminded of the ultimate hope that lies beyond the conflict. The promise of restoration and renewal is a central theme in Scripture, and it gives me a sense of peace amidst uncertainty. While the thought of Armageddon is daunting, I hold on to the belief that there is a greater narrative at play, one that culminates in victory and redemption. This perspective encourages me to remain steadfast in my faith and to share this hope with others as we navigate these turbulent times together. The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse are undoubtedly some of the most iconic symbols in biblical prophecy. Whenever I read about them, I can't help but feel a chill run down my spine. Each horseman represents a different facet of human struggle: conquest, war, famine, and death. As I delve into their significance, I realize that their presence is more relevant now than ever. The first horseman, often interpreted as conquest, makes me think of the various forms of domination we see in our world today. From political power plays to corporate greed, The spirit of conquest manifests in ways that can be deeply unsettling. I often find myself reflecting on how this relentless pursuit of power influences our societies and the choices we make. It's a reminder that unchecked ambition can lead to devastating outcomes, both for individuals and for entire nations. Then there's war, the second horseman, which feels particularly poignant given the current global climate. Conflicts seem to erupt with alarming frequency, often fueled by deep-seated grievances and a thirst for vengeance. As I witness the suffering caused by war, I'm reminded of the scriptural promise that one day, swords will be turned into plowshares. But until then, the reality of the war horseman serves as a sobering reminder of the fragility of peace and the need for reconciliation. Famine, the third horseman, resonates with me on multiple levels. It's impossible to ignore the hunger and poverty that plague many parts of the world. The disparities in wealth and access to resources often feel insurmountable. As I consider this horseman's role in the prophecy, I'm reminded of the call to be stewards of creation and to care for those in need. It's a challenge that weighs heavily on my conscience, pushing me to engage more actively in efforts to alleviate suffering. Lastly, there's death, the final horseman, which represents the inevitable end that awaits us all. This horseman serves as a stark reminder of our mortality and the transient nature of life. While it can be a heavy thought to carry, it also prompts me to live more intentionally. I often find myself contemplating how I can make a positive impact in the time I have, focusing on building relationships and leaving a legacy of love and hope. Reflecting on the four horsemen leads me to consider how these archetypes are not just historical figures, but also present realities. They challenge me to confront the issues that plague our world today and to seek solutions that align with the values of compassion and justice.